Hey, Big Blue Banter listener. Would you like an extra $500? That's a lot of cash. Go to bluewirepods.com/survey and complete the Blue Wire audience survey about you and your podcast listening habits for a chance to win a $500 gift card. This survey will help create a better advertising experience for audiences and, in turn, help this show. That's bluewirepods.com/survey, where all you have to do is answer some simple questions for a chance to win $500. Make sure to read the full terms and disclaimer, plus complete the survey for a chance to win. BlueWirePods.com/survey. The link is also in the show notes of this episode.
Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, still losing my voice. I don't know if it's that I have a sore throat or I'm actually sick, Nick, or I just was out all weekend talking and, yelling in lyrics at a concert. Might have been that. It's hard to say. But there's a little more pep in my step today. I don't know about you. Not based on the tape. I won't say that. But just based on life's too short. You can't let things like yesterday hold you down for too long. Have to move forward, have to look for the positives, and also just have to look for maybe not just the positives, but just a way to move on and move forward. It stinks that this is week one. It's still a long season. Things can change. Giants can look different. Daniel Jones is going to get another opportunity to turn this thing around, Nick. But we've now had a time to watch the tape on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is going to come later. Just generally speaking, Mondays, you'll probably get tape later than this typically from either side of the ball, tape reviews. But today we're doing the offense one a little bit early due to our schedules being a little conflicting. So we both had time to watch the offense, Nick. So I'll start there. What was the number one thing that you took away from the tape?
The Giants aren't good offensively. No. So look, they tried using it's stuff that we talked about earlier. They tried using a bunch of 12 and 13 personnel packages. It didn't seem like they were in 11 personnel that much. It did seem like they strayed away from designing plays for Malik Neighbors because Brian Flores was shading a safety, not always aggressively over the top of Malik Neighbors, but the safety's eyeballs were on Malik Neighbors often. But I was still a little shocked, Dan, that the Giants didn't try to get him the football in more creative ways. We saw the one play to Wan'Dale Robinson that was creative where they motioned Wan'Dale Robinson to a condensed stack, and then he basically ran an arrow route underneath on that 3rd and 3, caught the ball, moved the sticks. We didn't really see any of that from Malik Neighbors. And I came across this, and I'm not 100% sure how accurate it is, but on plays where Malik Neighbors was targeted and involved, the Giants had a plus 4.1 EPA. And on plays where he wasn't, it was like minus 20.7 or some like astronomically bad number. Now, there are obviously variables to that. The pick 6 to Andrew Van Ginkel didn't have anything to do with Malik Neighbors, but still, I think it's safe to say getting your young star talented receiver, designing plays for him like we all expected is probably your best way to win football games. And I know that the Vikings were trying to do some things to remove it, but it wasn't as, I would say, overt as we've seen in the past with star receivers, like what Wink Martindale was doing to Justin Jefferson. It wasn't necessarily like that, but they were shaded a little bit. I still think there was opportunities where you could have got Malik Neighbors of football. Did you have that takeaway as well?
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because, and you just brought up a bunch of things in my mind I wanted to get your take on. So we'll move to that after this, but I want to start with this because I felt the same way as you did on this after watching the tape. There was two things that stood out to me. There was one real opportunity that they missed. It was the middle of the field hole shot where Neighbors had his hand up really early, and and they had a clear out route taking the safety out of the play. And if Jones had been able to recognize that pre-snap, he could have adjusted the play and got the ball in his hands early. Instead, Jones kind of followed the play call because this is what he does. He doesn't really make adjustments pre-snap or post-snap, and took this long play action drop, got into his set, flipped his hips, and by the time he flipped his hips and tried to get the ball out to Neighbors, it was undercut by the second level defender and almost intercepted.
You're talking about the Josh Metellus play?
Yeah, I mean, that ball, if that's out early, it's a touchdown or it's a long play to Neighbors. I know it's not his fault. It's the play call, but just figure it out pre-snap and get the ball in. I know it's a 5-step drop, but maybe pre-snap you can just look at something, right? Like I've seen Aaron Rodgers and all the great QBs understand this stuff and then give a little hand motion to the receiver. Like, actually, I think I'm going to see something post-snap where I can get you the ball earlier than the design play call. Because by the time he makes that throw, dude, he doesn't have the arm talent to make that throw, and that's why it's nearly intercepted. So he has to work with either two things: elite anticipation, changing it pre-snap. But that was really the only opportunity. The other ones I saw were just things that he just doesn't have down with Neighbors yet. Like it could have been back shoulder stuff and just quick, some of those plays where Neighbors is running a vertical stem and then kind of gets into his break for a comeback. The ball's just not there quickly because they don't have any chemistry, and and Jones is not an anticipatory thrower at all, generally speaking. So that's kind of the only other opportunities I saw was really the Metellus play in that.
Yeah, I was more so speaking on the play calling of designing plays specifically.
Yeah. I mean, look, but that play with Metellus, they put Neighbors in motion. They got him a free release. That was a design for Neighbors, and he was wide open with his hand up.
Yeah, the thing that's odd about that play too is it usually your drop back and the routes, they'll be timed up.
Right.
5-step drop, and maybe Neighbors cut it off a little bit early. I'm not
Okay.
100% sure. But either way, Neighbors was wide open. I don't use that as a primary referendum on Daniel Jones because I'm just going to say, look, I don't know the exact play call. He took a 5-step drop.
No, he followed the play call well. It's just I wish there was some level
I know what you're
authority in his game where he can get out of that and get the ball out faster.
I know what you're saying. And there were a lot of plays too that Daniel Jones, especially in the second half, that's when his mechanics just went completely out the window, where he had guys open and he was looking for the bigger play, which part of me is like, good, he's looking for the bigger play, but it's also like, take what you can get. It's 3rd and 3, and he's just holding on to the football. And he's just not, I mean, dude, this isn't new news for us, for any of our listeners. This is not Daniel Jones's strength. Daniel Jones is not somebody who is going to process and be alert to where defenders are going to be from second to second after a play call, right? Like it's a lot of guessing, it's a lot of hoping, and it's a lot of, okay, it's not there, I need to get all, and then I'm sacked. And we saw that a lot. And I don't think the offensive line too is another takeaway. We said on the quick reaction show that the offensive line played, better than, or we said, yeah, they played well in the second half when it was down that's when it all kind of fell apart. I didn't think the offensive line actually played all that well, but now that doesn't speak to, oh, well, it's not Daniel Jones' fault. I still think Daniel Jones played like crap with that as well. I think the offense in general was not good at all, which is unfortunate. Right. And we also saw, you brought this up, it's not necessarily trap coverages, but everybody plays the New York Giants top down so damn aggressively. All the slant flat, stick flat type of quick game concepts, 3-step, get the football out of your hand type of concepts the New York Giants attempted to run. The cornerback who was in a cover 4, because the Giants saw a lot of middle of the field open, a lot of cover 4, cover 2 against Brian Flores. It wasn't all this man coverage, it was zone, right? Like, which we kind of expected. Those outside corners who had those deep fourths driving down so aggressively. And Daniel Jones, how many times? I think there was 2 or 3 times in this game where Daniel Jones looked to the flat, had the guy open, but you see Stephon Gilmore already heading down. And we saw that actually in 2022. Yeah. And we saw that actually back in 2022 when Stephon Gilmore was on the Colts as well, right? Remember that? So that's something that Gilmore probably remembers, but there's no respect.
It goes back to something I've said. It's not if Barkley's on this team. It's not if Neighbors is on this team. Defensive coordinators scheme to stop quarterbacks. They won't stop this until they're just, it's not an until situation anymore. If Daniel Jones is the quarterback in the New York Giants, this is how we're going to have to see things on a week-to-week basis. This is how defenses are going to play the Giants, with no respect for anything but the short part of the field, because there's no point of them not playing this. It's not, is Neighbors on the field, we have to respect him and play guys over the top. It's Daniel Jones is your quarterback. I can do this to you week after week, and the tape shows that.
Here's one of the plays that I'm referring to. I love it. Do you motion Wan'Dale Robinson to the field side? Wan'Dale Robinson's in the flat. Daniel Jones can fire the football at this moment, but look how fast Stephon Gilmore is just dialed in going downhill on it. And you could still probably fire it, and Wan'Dale's probably just going to get clocked, and Daniel Jones doesn't want that to happen. And then that underneath defender does a good job, and I felt like Brian Flores really tasked his middle hook to curl flat defenders to eliminate the quick passing lanes. And they did a really good job, because there are times throughout this game where the slant flat, that slant was eliminated, as you can kind of see here. Some people might say you can hit back shoulder. It's very difficult. But then later on in the game, Dan, there were plays where it was open, and Daniel Jones was still hesitant and reluctant to throw the football. It just got in Daniel Jones's head.
Yep.
And this was early on in the game. This was the first drive where Devin Singletary ends up getting tackled. And I also saw a nice adjustment from Daniel Jones doing this on the play that I'm about to run right here. This was the play where the field side, Daniel Jones, he's going to throw the slant. He pump fakes, or he doesn't pump fake. He goes to throw. He realizes that the cornerback is playing it aggressively. He's like, you want to throw that slant? We're going to play it aggressively. They removed that as an option. Jones actually tucked this down, extended the play. Good job by Darius Slayton to also extend the play to pick up the first down. But the fact that Brian Flores and the Vikings are so dialed into this is how the Giants play, this is how Daniel Jones plays, they have no respect for the field side still, is going to be such a hindrance towards this offense if it's not rectified. I don't know how it's going to be rectified at this point, Dan. This is 6 years in.
Yeah, I want you to revert back to that first play you put on there. This one, yeah, here you can let this play out a little bit. What really alarms me so much is the first play of Daniel Jones' 2024 season. The footwork, man. The footwork on this throw, on this pass attempt. This is the type of stuff that you might see from him in year one as a rookie, and by now you would hope that it was corrected. I know Josh Allen, Brian Dable gets a lot of credit for Josh Allen, but Josh Allen was also working with a quarterback coach throughout his time when he broke out. And, Dable's now had 3 years to work with Jones. I don't want to put it on Dable fully because sometimes, some prospects are just, you can't fix them. They're just are what they are. But to have the footwork look like this in year 6 and have this ball in the flat, this really simple throw, go at the low and behind the intended receiver on the first play of your season, it's really troubling for me. Like, look at that. Look at his feet on that. Look at his shoulders. Look at everything. And then look at where the ball goes, low and down.
This was a few like that too, man. It was a few like
Oh,
this.
more than a few. We're going to look at later. I put together a whole thread of all these inaccurate throws. This was some of the worst ball placement I've seen from Daniel Jones his entire career over the course of a full game.
Yeah, again, when it comes to footwork, look, his footwork is fine on the drop back, 3-step drop.
Yes.
He's completely dialed in and lined up with Wan'Dale Robinson or the slant to that progression side. That's where the football is designed to go. But this is when you extend the play.
Right.
Can you extend the play and still deliver an accurate football? Because he's going through his full progression. Where's he going to throw the football here? Theo Johnson is covered up like crazy, whoever the other receiver is. So it's going to Devin Singletary. But you get the ball to Devin Singletary, you put it on his upfield shoulder, Singletary's probably picking up like 8 yards. Like there's a lot of space. So you have to hit those, man. And Jones.
And it's such a simple throw. We're talking about a 4 to 6 yard throw right here. And I'm just talking about the distance it travels. Like when you can't complete those, like you said yesterday, like when you are not completing simple concepts on time. Oh, I don't know if you lost me for that. But
No,
I was
you're
saying
good. You're good.
It's just like you said yesterday, Nick. When you can't complete simple throws like that on time and in rhythm, it makes it really difficult to call any offense.
What's up, everybody? It's Jerry Ferrara. I've got a new podcast called Throwbacks with Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart, where we will be talking about all things sports, all things pop culture, and all things about our lives. From football locker rooms to Hollywood green rooms, we've got you covered. We're your weekly destination for the games you want to hear about and the stories you won't forget. Listen to Throwbacks on Apple Podcasts or Spotify with new episodes every Thursday.
What's up, big Blue Banter listeners? I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. And all of Mint Mobile's plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That's mintmobile.com/BBB. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/BBB. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
And a point you made last night, Nick, which was astute because you made it before seeing the tape, but I want to see if it's changed at all since you've now watched the tape, was that part of the reason Brian Dable had this game plan that everyone has rightfully so, hammered and got on Dable, not his best game plan, not a great game plan, was because we said, maybe it's a trusting of the quarterback, but I think a lot of it was just he didn't want to get into 11 personnel against Brian Flores early because he felt that when you get into 11 personnel against a defense coordinator like this, that's when he can start to put those exotic looks in, and that's when you allow him to be creative. And he knows with a quarterback like Daniel Jones, I can't put too much on his plate from a processing standpoint because then, Jones threw 2 interceptions yesterday. If he had gone 11 the whole game, he might have thrown 4 interceptions, 5 interceptions, because Flores would have been able to dig into his bag. And he felt like if I put 12 personnel in these heavy personnels, it really can dictate what Flores can do. The only issue is, Nick, by doing so, Flores was dialed into that version of the offense too, because he combated it with heavier personnel and then all quick game stuff. And you've already said it. You just broke it down. You can't do this anymore, Dable. Like the quick game concepts that worked with Jones at times, I guess, in 2022, brief periods of time, the Colts game, the Vikings game, are just done now. They don't work anymore. Jones can't throw them accurately. The ball placement is off. The timing and the rhythm is off. And like you said, the defenders are literally, the D-backs are playing for these throws.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did you think about that? Any change on that?
No, not at all. They were in 12, 13 personnel often,
Okay.
and they were running routes with it. And it wouldn't be as bad if Theo Johnson wasn't a rookie who missed part of training camp and definitely seemed to be in over his head. And that's not a referendum on him as a player. I still remain very high on Theo Johnson. But there were, I think, 2 plays where Daniel Jones thought Theo Johnson was going to sit. Theo Johnson kept going based on the leverage of the defense. I think Daniel Jones was correct to assume that. It makes Daniel Jones look bad. And trust me, Daniel Jones was bad yesterday, but those plays aren't necessarily on him. Those could have been,
Right.
Move the sticks, keep the drive going type of plays. But not getting into 11 personnel, they did not want Brian Flores to get into sub packages.
Okay.
You do not want Brian Flores
Yeah.
to get in a sub package to get 3 safeties out there and to start bringing safeties. You still saw creative Wink Martindale-esque type of drops where there are 6 guys on the line of scrimmage and then Harrison Smith is bailing to a deep third or a deep fourth. And we still saw some of that, but they wanted everything to be condensed, 12, 13 personnel. Let's get more linebackers out there, less speed, have them going to a more ordinary vanilla type of defense. It didn't matter though, because the Giants couldn't move the football like that anyways, but they didn't want Daniel Jones to get his ass kicked back there if the protection didn't hold up. And I like to think the protection would hold up. We saw the one, I think it was a full slide, and it was a defensive, I think it was a linebacker who went right in on Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones didn't throw hot off that. And he ends up actually escaping, to his credit, and then he ends up getting sacked. So there was a lot of issues with the Giants in general. But yeah, the 12 to 13 thing was to try to keep Flores at bay. Again, Flores and Dable know each other. They coached against each other in the AFC East.
And I wonder how much that is a Flores thing and how much of that is a Daniel Jones thing, because I would imagine Matthew Stafford and the Rams will be running, if they get to play Minnesota years, I'm not sure if they do, will be running 11 the whole game because that's what they do.
He's
and
so
because
good,
Matthew
man.
Stafford can handle it. I mean, Matthew Stafford last night looked unreal despite his entire offensive line being injured and not playing, because that's the difference when a quarterback can process pre-snap and post-snap and rally their team and make the checks and get them in the right situations in the right spots and keep an offense on time. And we've been saying it for years now, Nick, but it's like evidence just piles up and up and up. But I just feel like, yeah, it was a good idea maybe by Dable to not put Jones in that situation because he's not the quarterback who can get through it. But in the end, this didn't work either.
It also assists. Well, I think in theory, they wanted it to assist their rushing attack. They wanted to establish the run. You go out there with 12 and 13 personnel. And it wasn't like early on, they were just running a bunch of zone or zone read. They were running power. They were running gap. They were pulling the backside guard to 12, 13 personnel, triple Y, double Y sets, creating extra gaps on one side of the defense. And sometimes it was blocked up adequately, except for like one block. And it's like, and that one block. And I got to say too, man, like Greg Van Roten he looked rough as a pass protector and as a run blocker, which was really unfortunate. Didn't really like what I saw from John Michael Schmitz. Andrew Thomas is still elite. People are giving him shit on Twitter for the twist that I don't really think is his fault at all. You had a penetrating. How is he supposed to handle? Like, I don't know the protection call. I'm not going to pretend to, but there was a 3 technique inside of the B gap with John Runyon on his hip. And then the guy looped underneath. That's just a well-executed twist. I'm imagining the Giants want to pass that off. People are saying it's on Andrew Thomas. Like, watch Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas, I put a couple of the clips up on Twitter, Dan. Andrew Thomas got bull rushed a couple times by Dallas Turner and one of the other edge rushers. And he literally just sat back on his feet and just like stood the guy up. It was like, holy crap, welcome to the NFL. Yeah. Dallas Turner, though, did have a good game, and he's a very impressive young edge rusher.
How much Thomas's anger has evolved over the years.
Crazy, man.
It's just like a wild thing to see. You see some guys develop at different paces. We always say development is not linear, but like his development was just it's a wild track to watch.
I'll say another thing too that was just frustrating going back through the tape. On the 3rd drive, the Giants, man, 3 penalties after they're moving the football, right? They convert on that 3rd and 10. You're like, okay, and that was to Neighbors. Like, let's get Neighbors involved. And then they commit a too many men on the field penalty, a false start, and then that Wan'Dale Robinson holding that puts them into like a 3rd and 15 or something. And it's just like, what the hell, man? Like the frustrating penalties are still a thing that carried over from the 2023 season. And that wasn't the only drive that was like, there was another drive too, I want to say, where penalties afflicted. That might've been on the defensive side. It was on the defensive side.
Yep.
But then on the 4th drive too of the game, when Daniel Jones, the Giants moving the football, they're at a 2nd and 5 around midfield. They go with 2 quarterback runs. A quarterback
Yeah.
counter and then quarterback draw. They pick up 2 yards on
And then
that and then
punt.
punt the football, man. It's like, that's mad. That's Joe Judge maddening type of stuff.
It is. It was not, and that's when I was really, hammering Dable when I was watching the game, thinking, what the hell is he doing here? I just wonder again how much of that is just the lack of trust that he has in this
Probably,
quarterback right
yeah.
now, unfortunately. But
I'm
that's
sure that
crazy
has
too.
to
Like,
factor in.
he should have trust. He's named him QB1 the entire way. There's been no competition. They didn't bring up anyone competition through free agency. They didn't draft anyone. They didn't give anyone else reps in camp. Like, it shouldn't be like this in week 1. That's kind of the whole confusing part to me with where we're at. Like, I'm just uncertain why that was the week 1 game plan for your QB1 when, you've made it clear, at least through your actions, that he is your QB1.
Yeah, man, you had all this time too. All this
Yep.
time to
prep.
prepare for this game, and that's the product. You mustered 6 points. 3 of them were gifted by a rookie 3rd-round pick who forced a fumble, man. It's down bad. It's down bad season again. Hopefully it can be changed against Washington, who's not a good football team either, but they have a really young, exciting quarterback who can do damage against this defense.
Yeah. I want to get into a couple things with you. I did a couple film breakdowns, and we're going to come off the quarterback. So these are probably the last 2 things we want to do on quarterback. I mean, it'll probably come up. Look, for those who don't like it, this is how life is. Quarterback is the NFL. It's the reason why teams are good and bad. And this was the main factor of the Giants yesterday by far. Obviously, Dable did a poor job. The defense did a poor job. We're going to get to that as well. But there are just some alarming things I saw on tape from Daniel Jones that, from a physical standpoint, we'll get into some of the mental stuff, but from a physical standpoint, ever since he got that injury last year, the second neck injury, we kind of didn't know. It was weird. We got weird reports about how it would impact him from a physical standpoint throwing the football, and we didn't get any real tape to watch. And then we got the Vegas game. That was his only game back after the neck injury.
Yeah.
And he had some really, really awful ball placement in that Vegas game. The Barkley throw to the flat that he sails over his head for 4 to 6 yards, the Slayton comeback route that he sails over his head. And then yesterday, there were some really alarming issues from a ball placement standpoint from Daniel Jones that I put together in this clip. So we'll watch it here along with the viewers.
Yeah, it's I haven't seen these plays in this clip, but I have seen them just by watching them. So they might be I'll take a little bit of time to adjust to them. But yeah, here's one of them to Theo Johnson, where look, he has a guy bearing down on him on this play.
Matter.
But it doesn't matter, man. You have an open receiver. You have to hit this. This is a drag route where he's wide open. Look at the defensive player who is responsible for Theo Johnson. He is near the 50-yard line. There is about 12 yards of separation. Just get this football there. Daniel Jones gets hit. I get it, but you still got to get it there. You know where Theo Johnson is going. More than likely. This isn't the play I was referring to earlier where I was like, did he think Theo Johnson was going to sit? That was another play, but this was a miscommunication. And Jones, look, he was inaccurate all the game. So plausibly that was more on him than it would be on Theo. But again, I'm not in the huddle. This one was one of the worst ones to Wan'Dale Robinson, who again is, 5'8". He's a small guy, but you just sail this and you have a clean pocket. You have someone coming in, but you have plenty of time to turn.
How the ball comes out. Like what? Let's go back. Just watch how the ball releases. It just doesn't feel or look natural right now for Jones. This almost looks like he's kind of shot putting it out there. I don't know what's going on there, but you're missing. We're talking about a 5-yard out route that you're sailing over the receiver's head. And I know I've always felt, Nick, that ball placement has been very overrated from Jones, from some of his believers. Like, I don't think his ball placement has ever really been good on anything but the dig routes and the intermediate stuff, and really just the intermediate inbreakers. But this is a different level in these clips that I put together here. Like, this is stuff from at times clean pockets. The first one was rushed. I agree with that. But at times just clean pocket throws like that one that are just like really off target.
This is the one I was.
I know he sees a defender, but like.
This is the one I was referring to with Theo. So I think Daniel Jones wanted Theo Johnson to sit because of that defender. Yeah. So this is one of the ones where I thought this might be more on Theo Johnson and Theo Johnson just being a little bit inexperienced. Again, it's difficult to give Daniel Jones the benefit of the doubt on some of these plays because he was horrendous the entire game. But I think Daniel Jones wanted him to sit because he saw this defender bailing.
But I could buy into that. Yeah, I could buy into that as a possibility. It's
either way,
regardless. Yeah, if you want him to sit, the ball should still be higher. It shouldn't be, dipping down and dying out by the receiver's feet and grounding into the ground. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's sitting, unless you're thinking he's going to fall to the ground, this one was
rough. Yeah.
Really
so for those watching on or listening on the audio, this is the Wan'Dale Robinson 3rd and I think it was 10 plus, where Wan'Dale sits right near the sticks, middle of the field, just found a great spot in the middle of the defense where nobody was. And Jones, look, he had a guy in the pocket, but like this
Doesn't
is a very,
matter. This is a
very
short throw.
makeable play.
Yeah,
Yes.
and let me ask you, Nick, like look at the footwork on this. Is that playing a role? Like I'm wondering. So my question is, we can run through all 6 of these. They're really bad, but and we can go over them. It's fine. But what I'm curious is like, why is this happening from a physical standpoint? Is it all related to the feet, or is it possible that he's not the same thrower he was after these neck injuries? Because that's what I'm a little concerned about.
I mean, I can't speak to the medical. I'm
Yeah,
not a doctor, and I haven't
right.
evaluated Daniel Jones. Like, I don't even know if that's a concern given what the injuries that he suffered. The feet don't look on this play. Look, he hits his back foot and he fires the football. It doesn't look like it's too janky like some of the other plays that we saw, but he just dives it into the dirt. It's hard to see
But
from
look
the
at where his
angle as
body
well.
is placed. It's so crazy. His feet are almost lateral at that point. His legs.
It's a little bit difficult to see with the defenders and the offensive line in the way from where
Sure.
Daniel Jones is, but he doesn't look like he really has an opportunity to step into the throw. He has to this is a very catchable ball. You can't really make excuses for it. But it seems like when Daniel Jones doesn't really have the opportunity to really step into his throws, he's
Yeah, he can't get
inaccurate.
anything on him.
Yeah.
But was
And
it
like
always that?
most quarterbacks are like that, right? But you could still at least deliver a catchable ball in those situations.
Right.
A lot of good starting quarterbacks do that all the time. It's not like everybody has
Right.
clean pockets to throw from all the time. Daniel Jones
Right.
isn't necessarily that, especially manifested though in this game. And we're seeing a
Yeah,
lot
it
of these
just seemed
plays.
like more than usual for these
This one was
really
rough too,
wildly
man.
inaccurate ones. Yeah, this is a terrible ball on an out route that he throws behind the
Yeah.
intended receiver.
It's the motion with Malik Neighbors motions across the formation, and Tyrone Tracy just darts out to the flat. And look, man, this is a good play by Brian Dable that he's not
If you
going to
get that out fast, there's so much room for Yak if you get that ball out fast.
Exactly. Look, because you have eligible receivers on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Malik Neighbors motions from the stack over to the boundary side. The Giants have a lot more success, and they had a lot of success throwing and targeting the boundary side in 2022 because Daniel Jones doesn't really have that great of an arm, nor does he really have the confidence to target the field side. So they target the boundary side here. Malik Neighbors ends up motioning over, and you have the tight end clear out with Malik Neighbors clearing out. All the attention is on those two.
Right.
And Tyrone Tracy is running right to the flat. You just put this ball on the upfield shoulder. Tracy's going to catch this and pick up a first down, and then some, more than likely.
Yeah.
But he throws it to the inside, forces Tracy to turn around, and ends up being an incomplete pass. And little things like that, they don't seem like that big of a deal, but they're a massive deal, especially when you don't do anything to threaten defenses vertically. Like you have to be efficient with plays like this. If you're not, then what are you good for?
Right. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow because I think a lot of people underrate the impact of ball placement and timing in the passing game and how much it matters. It seems like little things, but they're big things. And this one was just another example, just a wildly off-target throw.
Yeah,
I know
this
he got
one,
hit on this one, but
he got hit on this one, and I'm wondering if he thought Wan'Dale was actually going to continue here. But either way,
maybe,
he's getting clocked at this point. This one's a little bit more excusable, but given the performance throughout the entire game, it doesn't make it palatable to say that, I'll say.
Yeah, and then this is just the first one that we already went over where he just grounds the first play, the pass play of the game, where he grounds it into Singletary on a 4 to 6 yard in the air pass. I mean, it's just, look, I've always thought the ball placement was bad and overrated, and the stats back it up. I'm not saying the accuracy stats, completion rates with his ADOT. I'm saying the real stuff, but this one just looked weird. I don't know if it was physical or mental, but it just looked like his ball placement was way off in this game compared to usual.
Hi, friends. My name is Nick Filato, and I want to take a little break from the negativity that we're showing because the New York Giants suck right now. So we're going to show one of the best plays from the New York Giants offense, a dig off of a dagger concept to Malik Neighbors.
Here we go. Is that an ad for something?
I'm wondering if people think that was an ad and they're skipping and they're like, wait, why?
I think we might have lost that. Yeah, we might have lost some people on that one.
Yeah, but no, yeah, the Giants were horrible. But I like this, man. You motion Malik Neighbors outside the numbers, and then you have, I think that's Darius Slayton. Does a good job winning outside. He has inside leverage with safety over the top. So that's one reason why he won so well outside. Darius Slayton, this is. But he's just acting as a clear out. You occupy the safety, you clear out that apex defender. You have Malik Neighbors win to the inside. But again, they're playing heavy inside leverage, the Brian Flores coach defense. So this is actually a really good throw by Daniel Jones to kind of put this behind. And Malik Neighbors has the wherewithal and the awareness to stop his route, to not continue going across the middle of the field. He gets his eyes on Daniel Jones, feels the leverage, understands where the defenders are. And this is a very good play by Daniel Jones as well. Sits, jumps, catches the football, and then ends up picking up a good chunk of yardage here. So I wanted to at least highlight this play.
Oh yeah.
Because there is so much negativity to go over with the
And I
Giants.
tweeted this one out as well. And I said, credit where credit is due.
Good throw, man. That's a good throw.
I think this is a phenomenal throw from Jones, because I know some people responded and they said, "Oh, this is not a good throw. Look at where he put it." And I'm like, actually, that's exactly where you want to put it: hot, high, and away from the middle of the field, so your receiver can make a play like that. When you have a Neighbors, you do this type of stuff. You throw it hot and away, back shoulder. But you know what I also said about that is this is kind of the maddening crux in life of, Daniel Jones is your quarterback for 6 years, because and you see that he's capable of making throws like that one. He's done it. He did it twice, I think, in this game. But then he only pulls it out of his bag, between 0 and 2 times per game on, 30 to 40, sometimes more dropbacks. And now it's like it's a high that 2 different Giants regimes have now chased these brief highs. We've had 6 years, and both there's been 2 separate regimes who have like chased that high, that feeling of, wow, look at the physical ability to make a throw like that. But not really kind of factoring in also that like it's only happening very rarely, and then we're having routine misses more often.
Yeah, I remember he had a play like that, similar to that, not as impressive, to Darius Slayton against the Rams back in like 2020. It was a dig route that Slayton took for a good game. This was a nice play, split back with Wan'Dale Robinson in the backfield. This was the motion, hit him on the angle route on the 3rd and 3, clear out, man coverage. I like that. We saw this concept a little bit in training camp, and I also just like how Andrew Thomas takes on this rusher and gains the chest, sink down. Just like Andrew Thomas, man, like he's just such a talented player. And I hope he just doesn't end up going out the way of Joe Thomas. Now he's not quite Joe Thomas, but just being on a mediocre team.
Just retiring early because you're done with this. You're like, I'm done with this. I don't want to live this life anymore. I'll retire. No, we got to be better.
So I wanted to highlight this play too. This was on the drive where the Giants got a field goal after the Andrew Phillips fumble. So very early in the game. The Giants, if they had protection here, they would have been able to probably hit Malik Neighbors for a touchdown. So that's what this concept is. You have 13 personnel with just Malik Neighbors as the wide receiver. But these routes are long developing, and that's difficult when you have Daniel Jones as your quarterback. It's difficult when you have the offensive line the New York Giants have. It's just difficult in the NFL. It's a play action, 5-step drop. He hits his back foot, and Daniel Jones has to step up because Jermaine Illuminor, if you watch this, Jermaine Illuminor has to set kind of awkwardly around Daniel Bellinger to pick up this edge rusher, and the edge rusher ends up gaining leverage on him. Daniel Jones steps up, and then Ivan Pace Jr., man, makes a very good play here. And I got to say, Ivan Pace played phenomenally in this game. I saw a lot of Giant fans, he didn't do anything. I'm like, dude, through 3 drives of the Giants offense, I was like, dude, this guy is everywhere. But he steps up, and he had the awareness to not get glued to Daniel Bellinger or Theo Johnson, whoever that is, or both of them, I guess, because Daniel Bellinger runs underneath. Theo Johnson tries to clear him out, and he steps up and just sacks Daniel or hits Daniel Jones. Good play by Daniel Jones to get the football to Daniel Bellinger. But the reason why I'm highlighting this play is look at Malik Neighbors, outside leverage defender he has over top of him. All the safeties key in on the tight ends who are running those intermediate dig and out routes. Malik Neighbors was wide open here if Daniel Jones had the time to deliver the football. So from a play calling standpoint, this would have been a touchdown if the Giants just had a little bit more time, which seems to be.
Sometimes I wonder about like these play designs, Nick, because I understand the concepts conceptually from Dable. He wants to have a situation where we can run some 12 personnel, some heavier personnel, get under center, develop a little bit of a run game, and then have the opportunity to run play action like this, right? With these deeper drops. But I also wonder, like, we saw this play, and then we saw the play I referenced earlier to Malik Neighbors. I don't know if I referenced on the pod, but we were talking about it before, where Neighbors was wide open for what would have been a huge chunk play, maybe even a touchdown, knowing Neighbors in space. But Jones had a long drop back off of play action. By the time he got into it, he gets to the throw, and it's almost cut off underneath by the second level defender for an interception. I almost wonder, like, go more gun and just kind of like run that style offense. So at least Jones can have a little bit more time. Because it takes Jones a long time, man, to get to his throw. And it takes him a long time for the ball to come out, generally speaking, as a quarterback. I almost wonder if just trying to find ways as a coach to speed up his process, like from your standpoint, will that help him at this point? Like I'm grasping for straws here. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm unsure, to be honest, too. Okay. On that play, I'm not faulting Daniel Jones. I think that was just a really good play by Ivan Pace and a very good play by that edge rusher to beat Jermaine Illuminor to a set point. But the play call was there, and that more than likely would have been a touchdown because they occupied those safeties. Those safeties weren't paying attention to
but that depth he gets to in the drop. It's like it allows that edge rusher to kind of, have
I mean, it's a 5-step drop, man. So that's a part of the play design, a part of where the routes are going, right?
Yeah.
Off the play action. So it's difficult. Like, I don't know if faulting him on that is
No, not
fair.
faulting Jones. I don't think Jones is at fault at all on that play.
You're talking
That
about,
was,
with
I'm talking
Dable.
about Dable, like, having these plays in our play.
It's a longer developing play. Those routes are timed up with
I
that
know.
drop.
And we're not at that point where we can really run long developing plays. I don't know right now, dude. Like, the timing is so bad. What?
They can't run quick game right now.
Yeah, they can't run quick game. They can't run the 5-step drop timing stuff. I almost wonder if we just go to gun, spread them out, and just try to hit one-on-ones, back shoulder. Like, there's got to be something better. It's like we've been at this point so many times, Nick, as analysts and fans of the team, like some of the Eli years at the end, some of the earlier Jones years where you're like, holy crap, I'm watching a football game all Sunday, and I feel like there's nothing they can do on offense. And there's got to be something they can do. You almost feel like that can change things. But I don't know if it's as simple as that, and I doubt it is, where you can just, spread them out and gun and just try to hit back shoulders all day. It's just probably not going to work either. You got to have arm talent for that type of thing, and timing is important there too. I'm just at a loss, man. I don't know. It's going to get better though. Like, Washington's D is so bad right now that at least Baker Mayfield made them look so bad that I think it should get better.
And Dable knows Dan Quinn quite well.
Yes,
playing Dan Quinn twice a year with the Cowboys.
Daniel Jones quite well too, which is not.
He does. He does.
We don't like it when coordinators know this quarterback, because this quarterback is hard enough with him from a processing standpoint. Don't give them any advantage.
Yeah, and I think we should talk a little bit though about the rushing attack, or the attempted rushing attack. Again, we saw a lot of power, a lot of gap, a lot of backside.
I do want to get. I'm sorry, I had one more thing I wanted to get into. I know it's a lot, but one more thing with Jones. Yes, because I asked about the physical stuff, but the mental stuff, I felt like his pocket awareness in this game was just unbelievably regressive from where he was at. This was a great example. And there was one earlier. I think, was this the one by the 2-minute warning? This might not have been the one.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one that people are accrediting to Andrew Thomas because of the twist.
Yeah. When the guy stepped right into the stack. I mean, here's the thing. Like, if you're crediting Andrew Thomas for this sack, in my opinion, you know nothing about. I'm not going to say it that way. I'm just going to say you need to start to try to take some. I'm not even going to say this, but I'm just going to say this is not on Andrew Thomas, this sack. The quarterback has no reason to bunny hop twice into the middle of the pocket to take a sack here. If he had just stood still, someone replied to me with this, Nick. If he hadn't even taken 2-step back, like I thought he could, to get more depth in the pocket and give himself more time, if he had just stood still, it would have been better than doing what he did here. My guess is, dude, he tried to turn this into a running lane, and his idea was to run here. But dude, look at that open wide receiver in the middle. Like, where is the timing? Where's the recognition of this? Just throw this football here. The ball needs to be out earlier than this, before that receiver turns around. It's all about timing and quick game. And there was another one later in the game like this.
This wasn't necessarily quick game though. That's the
whatever it is.
Though. If you're targeting Wan'Dale, I 100% agree with you. But look at those other routes. These are out and ups by, I think, Neighbors and one other player. And these are plays that we've seen Brian Dable run frequently, rarely ever thrown by the Giants quarterbacks. But you can see, I think that's what Jones was looking. Jones has his eyes downfield, and he just gets caught, steps up in the pocket. I think he realizes probably at the moment right before he gets hit that Wan'Dale is wide open. But really disrupted the play was Wan'Dale getting jammed at that moment. Like, Wan'Dale gets jammed, and you can see Wan'Dale, it takes him a second to recoup and then sit down in the middle of the field. By that time, Daniel Jones is getting sacked by a 4-man rush off a well-executed twist. Again, I don't know the protection.
I don't even know if I would consider this necessarily a well-executed twist. There's a little bit of hint of pressure off that twist, but if you had just roll back a little bit, before he's stepping up into the twist, if he had just kind of paused right there, even back before this first bunny hop, he can slide a little bit to the right, take a few steps backwards and get depth, and the whole right side looks good. And then worst case scenario, if that pressure does come from the twist, just throw it out of bounds at that point. Or scan back to the right. It doesn't make sense to me to ever be bunny hopping into the pocket like this in that situation. And I just can't imagine it would to anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's about ready to throw the football. He was just stepping up into the pocket, and it was a twist that wasn't passed off between the left side of the offensive line. So
I see no reason to step up, but it's okay. We can agree to disagree on that. The second one was obviously another example. At least I thought of just really bad pocket management here.
There was quite a few bad, a lot of plays like this where it just seemed to be indecision. All right, let me try to run. Okay, I'm sacked. There was 3 or 4 plays similar to that.
What's the point of I guess if he's stepping up to run, it makes a little more sense. But what's the point here of of stepping up through this pocket. This pocket is not collapsed. Like, you don't need to panic bail out of these. That's kind of like the last one. That's kind of my same take, like the one we just went over. I just don't understand the idea to panic bail out of these pockets. It just seems to be a big part of his game. Like, he doesn't have a feel for when to bail and when not to bail out of pockets. And that'll really kill you. Like, if you don't have that, you can't be playing quarterback at the NFL level. You need to have a full feel for when a pocket needs to be bailed from. This is not a pocket that needs to be bailed from.
I agree. No, I agree with, especially this pocket. I think a little bit more so than the last one. The last one, I think he did, like, there was a wide space where he could step up, and then he saw Wandale and was probably like, I'm going to throw the football, even though I could pick up some L, and then I'm sacked, because he didn't even know that guy was coming, because that was a well-executed twist on the left side. Here, this pocket seems to be relatively intact, if not fully intact. One of the cleaner pockets he's probably seen throughout the game. It looks like his first read might be that deep curl that we see at the top of the screen. There's two guys in that area with an underneath defender about 7 yards in front. He comes off of that. You have Neighbors, who's also has people to the outside. You have that check down on the top part of the screen to whatever running back that is. And Jones just felt like, since the middle
back it up a little, Nick.
Yeah, since the middle of the field is so open, I'm going to take it with my legs. It's just he couldn't
stop right there. It's just too many times he's already making the step forward right there, even when you paused it. There's just too many examples of this. Like, go back a little bit if you can here on the video. Thank you. Like, just there's not enough of examples of him understanding that that's a pocket that he could just stop right there from. And maybe, if anything, you take a little bit of a slide to the right or left. And I'm talking a little bit, not like these full hops forward that he's taking, and just scan from that point and process it and then get the ball out from that spot. You found your foundation. You don't need to bail and take these 2 huge steps forward at that point. Like, that's just not how any of the good quarterbacks are doing this thing.
He's stepping up into the pocket. Look, there's only 2 routes really that are out there.
It's not a great route combo. I understand that.
This isn't the only time I saw this too. There was another play that was similar to this where I was like, they're not giving Daniel Jones a lot of options down the field. It's like 2 deep curls and then a check down with a 6-7 man protection. And the 6-7 men end up, not doing their job. Daniel Jones doesn't get, protected. I think your overall point is fair. And there are a lot of plays that I don't know if we have it cut up that where he did not show the requisite pocket management and awareness. And he looked hesitant. He looked reluctant. He looked unsure. He looked unconfident back there. I'm not trying to necessarily just defend him, but I'm trying
I don't think you are either.
Context as to maybe what was going through his head. And I don't think plays like this are necessarily indicative to be conducive for success for a quarterback like Daniel Jones, because these underneath defenders are sitting and they're gaining depth enough to remove the ability for Daniel Jones to throw the football over the top. And for a lot of quarterbacks with these guys also over the top. So look, man, the middle of the field's wide open. I think he just thought he could run, and you just can't. There, bud. And that's something that he learned a lot in this game.
You talked about the little things. I just think pocket feel is one of those little things that doesn't always show up, but it makes a big difference, understanding when to bail, when not to bail. But let's talk about the run game now, because very disappointing first performance for the run game. And we know that based on what we've already went over, the game plan for this game, it was going to be important to establish a run. Like you said, the Giants are putting in some heavy personnel to give them opportunities. They're running some power gap stuff, making things interesting, but it just didn't really get going. They had one, good run from Tyrone Tracy that got called back by a penalty. Singletary had a few decent ones, but overall, this wasn't what we were hoping for from the first performance of the new run scheme.
No, not at all. Giants averaged 3.5 yards per carry, and now one of them was with a 14-yard rush that was kind of just a throw behind the line of scrimmage. Daniel Jones only had 2.5 yards per attempt. Devin Singletary 3.7. So the Giants couldn't really get much going, and it wasn't as creative as we thought it was going to be based on what we saw in the preseason. It was a lot of just power and then some zone in the second half. And the power, there were times where I was like, it's blocked up well. And this is so familiar for the New York Giants. But one guy did not execute his assignment. And I'll say this, though, too, man, to extrapolate on that did happen several times. But there were also plays where it just seemed like the Giants were sliding off their blocks. Like the sustainment of the blocking for the Giants, I felt like was a problem. And that manifested with at least one player not executing it, whether it was Greg Van Roten, which it was a lot. Greg Van Roten was the worst offensive lineman, in my opinion, on this offense, or JMS, who didn't necessarily have that great of a game. I didn't really particularly think any of the offensive linemen were all that impressive as run blockers. Thomas is like, he's fine. Like, he's not going to be a liability for you, but he wasn't like his dominant self as a run blocker. But I didn't think Runyon was all that impressive. Illuminor was fine, but again, not all that impressive. It just, it really came down to one or two mistakes on every given play, and the Giants, just getting beat. It seemed like, honestly, and I think Coach O'Connell said this, they just outplayed, outperformed, out hustled, out energized the Giants.
Yeah, they did. I tweeted about that because I agree with that sentiment, and I think they did get out hustled, I guess, and outperformed and out prepared, as Coach O'Connell said. But I also think it's really easy to say after these blowout losses. I feel like Kevin O'Connell, like all the winning coaches, always have that same spiel, like we did it, we out prepared them, we out hustled them, we outplayed them. Like, it was a blowout win, and
But if you like, again, I think a lot of this comes to the game plan and the chess pieces that each offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator has at their disposal. But the Vikings, man, again, they didn't have to blitz all that much, but they were penetrating and they were attacking. They were attacking the New York Giants and getting upfield and getting penetration. And that's something that it was too much for the Giants to handle.
They were playing everything so close. That's what happened, right? Like, when you're
how long has it been like that? It's been like that for a while.
It's been like that for almost all of Jones's careers. It's almost the entire career except for the Shermer year. And that's just how they play Jones. But like, I don't know when it stops looking like this. Even next week, I'm scared. As bad as Washington defense looked week 1, I don't know if I can trust Jones at all at this point, given what he put out. Like, I hope, like, if he's like he was this week, he'll get benched because he was unplayable in this game. He had no pocket feeling management. He was skittish back there. And then we showed it earlier. He was inaccurate in weird spots a lot of the time. I mean, dead balls on the ground, balls over the head of the receiver, throws behind that were like third string level throws. That's the only way to really talk about what that was. That wasn't like, oh, is he our guy long term or not? This is like, he can't play if he's not going to play better than he did in week 1.
Yes, if he plays like this in Washington,
it's it probably.
Week 3 might be Drew Lock.
Yeah.
We might see freaking Tommy Cutlets again.
We're probably going to see DeVito this year if things trend in this direction. Now, Jones has a chance to turn around. And again, this is a great spot for him against a Washington defense because they looked terrible, I thought, against Baker Mayfield.
I think this really does set up as a, like, if you don't execute, like, you should not start week 3 because you're right. Yes. Washington picked up right where they left off in 2023 with an abysmal defensive performance against the Buccaneers.
They don't have talent on that defense. Doesn't matter that Quinn's there. They don't have talent on that defense, Washington.
I know. They have they're terrible. So Jones should have a bounce back game.
He will, I think.
But if he doesn't, you have Drew Lock. You signed Drew Lock for a reason, right? Just in case Daniel Jones wasn't healthy, you had a solid, capable backup quarterback. Lock did not have a good training camp. Lock obviously did not have a good preseason in his limited time that he had out there. But you have to, I think, start him at that point, man. You have to do something. You have to try to salvage your season, if not just to light a fire under Daniel Jones's ass and just try to spice something up a little bit, because what we saw in week 1 against the Vikings with all this time to prepare was inexcusable.
Yeah, and it was alarming again in a lot of ways from that pocket, just the things that I just hadn't seen from him. But look, he'll have his opportunity against Washington, and we'll tackle those long-term discussions when they come, Nick. But, you went over a little bit of these run game woes. The offensive line wasn't performed to the standard we had hoped for before watching the tape. We've talked a lot about the offensive side of the ball, Dable's game plan. What anything else maybe that we missed in doing all of that?
No, I mean, look, it was a really bad performance. I hate coming on here and being so negative, but it's just,
what can we do?
You got to call it like it is. I can't wait for the Giants to have exciting football where you'd be like, oh, remember that 3rd and 6 when it was 14-17 in this high leverage situation in the third quarter and it led to we haven't had, like, it's one of these things where I'm watching the tape and I'm like in the second quarter and it's like, oh, well, at this point we had no hope.
Right.
It's like, dude, it shouldn't be like that. It's been like that so much.
Not against a team like the Vikings, too, who are projected to win around the same amount of games the Giants were. It just wasn't, and that's why I can understand why people are like coming down on Dable as well for this. And he deserves blame. Yeah. I thought he coached one of his worst games. Game plan was bad. The coaching was bad. Some of those calls you talked about, the Daniel Jones design runs were poor calls at poor timing. This was his opportunity to kind of put his stamp on the offense, call the plays. And this is what we got against a defense that, again, it has a good coordinator, Brian Flores, and he gets them to play freaking hard and good, but they don't have all the pieces on defense. Minnesota, they lost their best pass rusher last year and their secondary is super young. Like, and it's just seeming, you would think that would be susceptible to giving up some big plays.
You want to know what makes me a little nervous too, man? Well, I don't even, I think this is just real. It's just reality. Ivan Pace Jr., a second-year player, young guy, undrafted free agent, probably confident, I'd imagine. He's defied some odds, but he was steadfast confident that the Vikings were just going to bitch the Giants, and they did.
On defense, you mean, versus Vikings Giants offense? Yeah.
Yes, he came out and he was like, "Oh yeah, we're fine," and they were fine.
He said it wasn't even a matchup.
Wasn't even a matchup, and guess what?
He was right.
He was right, and that's bulletin board material on week 1 of Legends Night, coming back from the injury. You have all of this momentum. Like, your expectations were low, your back was against the wall, but you're not in the 2023 state anymore. Dable's now the play caller. And then this Ivan Pace Jr. character was proven completely right. Like, it's behind closed doors. And I think we all know this at this point. Behind closed doors, teams are looking at the Giants and they're like, we know how to stop this offense. Are you kidding me? Like, that guy, no way. And adding Malik Neighbors isn't
enough
threat enough to keep them from feeling that way.
This is a quarterback-driven league. You have to have a quarterback who keeps the offense on time and executes simple stuff and has good ball placement and arm talent and all of the things we've gone over multiple times. And I hate this too, Nick. I hate that it had to be so negative. I was so negative on this podcast. And what else could I have done? There was nothing on that tape to be positive about. And I hate that we're at this point where we're already talking about potentially next year and things like, are we benching Daniel Jones for Drew Lock? And Tommy DeVito is going to play some snaps. It really makes our jobs miserable, to be completely honest. And we're still going to do it, and we're going to do our best because we have in the past, and we've proven that we will. But this is so much more fun when they're good. Nick and I love breaking down good tape. You love watching it. You love enjoying it. You love to listen. We can find so many things. We can find unheralded heroes, all these little things that Nick is talking about, a play here, a play there that changed the game. That's what we look for. That's what we, as fans, that's what we come here for. People listening to this podcast are people who, like me and you, Nick, who before this podcast, we would want a podcast like this where we can hear about those plays. But how do we do it with what we just put on tape yesterday? It's not possible unless you want to just make stuff up and be like a Homer shill, which we just won't refuse to be. We won't be that at any point. There's no one making us be that. It's not part of the podcast terms by Blue Wire. So we just are going to run this pod the right way. And that's to call it objectively. And I'm sorry that we had to be so negative on this show. And I really hope for our sake and for yours, things can turn around. Because I think no matter what, Nick, at this point, unless the Giants make a deep playoff run, they're going to be moving on from Jones at that contract point. So I just want him to turn it around so we can have good football to watch, because I'm not sold Drew Lock or DeVito can give us any fun. I still think our highest upside by far as a passing offense is if Daniel Jones can play and can improve.
Yeah, no, it's not a great place to be. You want to get into the superlatives?
Yeah, let's do some superlatives. I don't know how to do these, but we can try.
All right, let's start with unheralded player on offense. Like, I was racking my brain. I'm like, who can I go with for the unheralded player on offense? You know what? I think I'm going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson. That's the one play. Look, no one wants to talk about Wan'Dale Robinson because no one wants to talk about anybody really on the Giants offense right now, rightfully so. Wan'Dale Robinson had 12 targets, caught 6 of them for 44 yards. Could he have done more? Sure. Was he missed on several throws by Jones? Yes, we went over that a little bit earlier. He had that one really nice spin that left about 3 or 4 Vikings defenders just twirling their heads around, and it picked up, I think, like 14 yards or something. So credit to him there. That's like the only player I can really think of. Maybe you can go with Singletary, but he averaged like 3.7 yards per carry. So, like, what are we talking about there?
Yeah, I racking my brain. I was thinking of going Tracy just because I liked the one run that was called back by penalty. I thought he showed good burst on it, good elusiveness, and kind of good understanding of space. But that's one play, man, and it's hard. I'm going to go NA for this. I think it's the fairest way to go. Best throw. I think we already went over that. It's got to be the same one for you as me, that dig route to Neighbors.
Yeah, dig the Neighbors off the dagger concept. Definitely. Best overall player. Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, I still think it was Andrew Thomas. Look, a lot of people, like you said, fans are giving him crap for that spin move where Jones bunny hops twice into a sack, which to me is still on the quarterback. But outside of that, not too many mistakes. I agree with you, though. He wasn't a weapon in the run game. I was maybe hoping he would be now fully healthy. But I think that's more of a product of just how dysfunctional the Giants' run game is right now.
Yeah, I agree. Now, player we expected to see more from. So Daniel Jones is the obvious answer. I'll leave that one aside.
Okay.
So I'm going to probably go with, see, I feel weird saying it's Greg Van Roten, a 34-year-old free agent we signed during training camp, but he did not look good. Now, I want to pull up the Pro Football Focus stats on him. I have not checked these out yet. He
PFF was
surrendered.
higher on the Giants O-line than I think you were.
Who was?
PFF in general. I think they graded him
Oh.
12th best O-line in the league in week 1.
Oh, really? He
Yeah.
had a penalty and 4 pressures, 2 hits, 2 hurries, surrendered. So, I thought in the run game he was sliding off blocks.
Yeah.
He allowed a lot of interior pressure right into Daniel Jones's face. So that would be the player I wish I saw a little bit more from.
Yeah, and this is a good example why you can't trust PFF for all these things, because I honestly agree with you on Nick. From what I've seen, it wasn't as pretty as I thought it would be. It wasn't terrible at times, but it just wasn't like what I was hoping it might look like on tape.
I'll say this
Especially
about
in the
Pro
run
Football
game.
Focus, at least. I'm looking at
Yeah.
their stuff right now. They had Andrew Thomas with a very high pass blocking grade. Their run blocking grade for Andrew Thomas wasn't all that high, but
Okay.
like Manhurst, Singletary, Illuminor, and Bellinger all had pretty good pass blocking grades. All of those guys to me seemed okay in pass protection. Jermaine Illuminor had that one play we went over that was a little bit rough. It was more just the other players. And again, like I don't think they were terrible in
Right, me
general,
neither.
the offensive line. I just don't think they were as good as you and I, or at least I thought
Me too.
after the watch last night.
Exactly what you just said is where I'm
Yeah.
at. So, like, the PFF had him as like the 12th. I would think they were more like an average offensive line.
But I don't know how bad those other teams were. They could have been really
True.
bad.
Could have been even worse. They were, dude, the NFL averaged 187 yards passing yesterday.
I know.
How
Dude,
insane is that?
fantasy sports, people love hearing about it. Like 130 fantasy points was like a ton, in a
I
league that
know.
you usually get like 160.
I know. It's freaking insane,
Down.
man. I mean, and I saw a chart from earlier today that we went over on the Beyond the Box Score. It's an interesting stat that, fans of this show will probably appreciate. We're getting very close to the point, because they showed it in the chart, where it's actually going to be potentially better to call a run play than a pass play from an EPA standpoint at the NFL, which is crazy for those who have studied these charts and know like the context, which is essentially like passing plays have been worth double run plays for years. They've been double as you might as well call them every play almost. Dable did that once with Josh Allen, but now we're getting to the point with the way defenses are set up and aligned that you're actually, you're going to see a lot of running the football moving forward in the NFL.
Yeah. All right. Pass blocking 1 through 10.
I didn't do the player I expect to see more from.
Oh.
I think Ben Rome was a good one. No, it's okay. Mine was, we've already went over. It's just Daniel Jones. I just wasn't expecting him to be that version of Daniel Jones at all.
Yeah, he was terrible. Pass blocking 1 to 10.
Yeah, so this is the one where like I'll just go 4.9 because I want to go average, and I'm going to go a little below average.
Yeah, I went 4.6, and
Okay.
my mindset was the same. I actually thought about maybe even bumping it up, but I'm like, were they actually above average? It's like relative to what we've seen for the Giants, they were well above average, but they weren't good either. And again, it did usually come down to like one guy really screwing up, but it's been a lot better than what I've seen recently, which makes me want to go up to like a 5.1. So I'm going to go with 5.1.
Okay, 5.1. I like it. Run blocking. I didn't feel good about this.
No.
What was your grade?
I had a 2.1, dude.
Yeah, I was at 1.9. I just didn't really see much success. I don't feel like
there was no push.
There was no push.
There's no push.
First of all, there was zero push in the run game. And it just wasn't any. Also, maybe you get that one game, but then you get a couple of these really well designed plays in the run game that were schemed up nice, and you get like a spring a big one. There wasn't really any of that either.
It was a constipated run attack. It really was. Like there was a lot of attempts for push, but there was no success. It was constipated.
It's almost worse than it was at times in 2023, to be honest, which is crazy. And so, look, this is the situation right now that they got. Things can turn around fast against Washington on the offensive side of the ball. We'll be looking forward toward that again. This Washington defense does not have the pieces personnel-wise. The Giants, Baker Mayfield just torched them. Realistically, the Giants should be able to move the ball.
I want to see some John Michael Schmitz at least hold his own against Jonathan Allen. Right?
Yeah.
Because if there's anything that Washington has, it's solid
Jonathan Allen.
Yeah. Jonathan Allen's a good football player. I loved him when he was at Alabama. I loved Deron Payne too when he was at Alabama.
I know. They should have never traded Montez Sweat. I don't get that one, but
what they get? They got a 2, right?
They got a 2, but like you're a team that needs Montez Sweat. Like just keep him on your roster.
Sweat, he's a big guy, man.
He's huge.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's been good for the Bears since they did. All right, that's all we have so far for today on the offensive film review. Check back tomorrow. We'll do the defensive film review. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hate that I have to say this in week 1 that we're at that point, but just try to like the video, try to support us. More good content. Eventually, this thing's going to be a lot of fun when the Giants are good. It's just hard to predict when that will happen. Hopefully sooner rather than later.